Hello and welcome back to the Eradicators. I am your host for today, the Eradicator, and in this video we will talk about Age of Empires 4, which, just like plenty of other games covered during the Xbox Bethesda conference, got a release date, and it looks like we'll be able to command our medieval troops on October 28th. There is also a Steam page available with more details that have been unveiled, and of course, for example, how much the game will cost. And for the regular edition, it's going to be about $50, which is normal for a game like this. It also looks like there is a deluxe edition for about $70, and with that come a few digital items like a coat of arms, a player profile portrait, a monument, the game soundtracks, a unit counters chart, and an art compilation. And quite frankly, I don't think that you really need all of that. You don't really need to purchase the deluxe edition unless you are a content creator and you need those soundtracks for your videos, or if you really want to precisely know which unit counters which unit best. The standard edition, in my opinion, will do just fine and will provide us with enough material to keep us busy for hundreds of hours already. Moving on to the trailer itself, and one could argue that it is a continuation of the trailers that we've seen a couple of weeks ago, in which some gameplay was revealed, as well as some of the campaigns that we'll get to play, which include William the Conqueror and Genghis Khan, and now we know that we'll also have a campaign that will revolve around Joan of Arc. The Steam page also informs us that only 4 campaigns will be in the game, and these will include a total of 35 missions, which will be part of the game at launch. And from the looks of the poster, it looks like the 4th campaign could follow the footsteps of Saladin, as the man who is depicted there resembles actual depictions of these historical figures, not to mention that the trailer does feature some units that look very much like those traditionally associated with what was used in the Middle East. While the comparisons between modern world and past imagery look fantastic, this is not really something that we'll spend much time covering. Instead, I would like to have a closer look at a few tidbits of gameplay that the trailer revealed. So, the first shot that we get to see is this foggy image of what looks like an English fleet leaving a fortress, and I assume that these are English because of the red color and the longbow archers on the wall. And remember that the English campaign will not just be about William the Conqueror, but also about his descendants. I have no doubt that we'll get to see the birth of the English fleet, the English naval supremacy, as well as perhaps some invasions of France, or maybe even preparations for the Crusades. Next, we have a woodcutter's camp, and I like the fact that buildings in Age of Empires 4 look less generic than they did in Age of Empires 2, as there was clearly a focus put on the attention to details and make the buildings look more realistic than they were in previous titles. Here, Age of Empires 2 players will be very familiar with how resource gathering works, as the woodcutters cut their way through the woods and bring back the logs to camp. But at the bottom right, we can also see fruit gatherers picking fruit from the bushes as a scout zips by, probably on his way to explore what's to be discovered around the camp. The next shot depicts life within an English base, and again, here there is something veteran players wouldn't find unfamiliar. You get to see a mill surrounded by its 8 farms with 8 villagers producing food for the nation. There also looks to be some barracks, that building with the 2 towers, or at least some unique production facility. And honestly, I don't know what the building with the bell is. It could be the town center, as that bell could be used to tell the villagers to hide in case of an imminent danger, something that we've been doing in Age of Empires for decades. I also love that buildings under construction have scaffoldings all around them. I mean, that too is an interesting attention to details. And now look at that building is complete, and the town features a brand new church. I just hope that those special effects are here for the trailers only and won't be part of the games, or if they are, I hope that we'll get to disable them because they will be quite annoying and immersion breaking. And yes, it does look that that building here with the bell was the town center indeed. Next, we get to see how a Chinese settlement looks like, and I like the contrast with cities from other civilizations. It's important to keep in mind that the Ming Dynasty was the world's leading superpower back then, and that shot successfully depicts that reality as everything looks clean, refined, and organized. I have no doubt that the Chinese will be a fan favorite when we'll get to play the game online. After that comes the reveal of a new civilization, and these are the Arabs, as we can clearly see with this architecture and the signature camel units. Possibly the Mamluks, as they were one of the premier nations of that region, but it could also be the Abbasid Caliphate, which lasted for a longer period and engulfed a much larger territory in the Islamic world. The problem is that none of these nations were Saladins, who was from the Ayyubid Sultanate, which was a short-lived sovereign state that only lasted for 90 years. I guess that we'll have to wait for more information from the developers to figure out which choice they made. And there you get to see more of the Arabic architecture, and especially those typical domes that are on the top of those military buildings. We totally get that 1001 Nights vibe, except that this shot was taken during the day, of course. Now here's a really cool shot of a battle between an Indian army versus an Arab army. It looks like of a late game skirmish, as those elephants really look like they've been decorated more elaborately, and we can see that both sides have firearms which were invented in China in the 13th century and were quickly adopted by the Arabs with whom the Chinese traded with. So we should expect the Chinese and the Arabs to be amongst the first nations in the game to be using those weapons. The Indians, however, acquired firearms in the 15th century, which confirms to me that this shot represents a late game battle, if Relic Entertainment stuck to being historically accurate, of course. And here's an English castle, and we should definitely expect those buildings to do a lot of damage, especially if they are strategically placed like this one. I like this shot a lot because we get to see more of the Mongol structures, starting with the top left and what looks like a temple. Now let's keep in mind that the Mongols were Tengri, which is a shamanist, totemist and animist religion. It's not a surprise to see this sort of shrine with these megaliths disposed in such position. Below that in the picture is what looks like to be the main tent of a settlement, which probably acts as the settlement's town center, and below that there looks to be a structure where animals are herded and fed, which again makes sense because the Mongols relied heavily on herding animals, so it's only natural to see that being a game mechanic in Age of Empires 4. Now these are awesome shots of a naval skirmish between an Indian and an Arab navy. The style of those ships is again typical of the civilizations, and if you still had any doubts, you can really see that crescent here on the sails of the yellow ship is another indication that we are indeed looking at Arab units, as the crescent is one of the symbols of Islam, which is the prevailing religion of that region, of course.
What will you be remembered for?
Now, these are absolutely great cavalry shots, and we should expect the French to have the best horse units, and those lances with extra range are going to do a lot of damage. But what I found the most fascinating here was the animation and how these horses react to being rammed by another knight in a frontal assault. It looks brilliant and will certainly add to the believability of the title. Now, here we get to see one of the biggest changes, and I really believe that it is going to add a lot of excitement and possibilities to the game. It's the ability to position units on top of walls, and it will turn walls into fantastic defensive assets, and enemies will have to think twice before assaulting your base if you position sentries on top of them. Now, also notice how the trebuchets are being packed in the back, and look at how massive they look. And of course the buildings will have their own animation when they get destroyed, and I love how armies make dust clouds around them when they advance. Overall, I just love everything I'm seeing here. Age of Empires 4 looks like the modern take on the genre that it should be, and I like that it takes elements of Age of Empires 2, improves them, and builds upon them with new mechanics. I am sure that a lot of veteran players will fall in love with this title, and I certainly will, and I will be playing it here on this channel. And that's pretty much it for this video. A huge thanks to everyone who's recently subscribed. We just got past 800 subscribers, and we're well on our way to 1,000, and who knows, maybe that will happen before the end of the summer. That would be fantastic. Also, please smash that like button, as it really helps me with the algorithm, especially since this channel is not monetized. I wish you all a wonderful day. Stay safe out there. This is the Eradicator. I'll see you guys later. This video is brought to you by the people who support this channel on Patreon and via the join button as well. Supporters of the channel get access to lots of cool perks such as access to my private Discord, your question answered in the show, you get to know when I'm going to play, and also you get to have a chance to influence the editorial line of the channel. Any help is appreciated, starts at just $1 a month. Thank you very much for watching. This is The Eradicator, and I'll see you guys later.